we are starting our bulletin with a very complex issue, and that's around our children and coaching institutes. Centre has issued a set of guidelines for coaching institutes, asking them not to enroll children below 16 years of age. They must not release assessment test results either. Weekly offs have been recommended. Offs during popular festivals should be accommodated. Fees should be reimbursed for the remaining period if a student pulls out. And penalties have been decided from rupees 25,000 to a lakh to revocation of registration for repeated offences. Now, these are an important measure. Why is this complex though? Why is this entire issue complex? Coaching centers have become an inherent part of our academic competitive world. Good or bad, that's different, and that's to each their own opinion. But the issue at hand is really of stress, of how students, whether it be in schools or after school hours, have to go through so much just in the name of competition, competitive exams to get themselves somewhere in their life. Remember, series of death by suicides that have been reported. The number of students who have died by suicide in India has risen by around 70%. 70% between 2011 and 2021, according to official estimates. And according to NCRB report, failure in examinations was one of the reasons mentioned by some of these students, or at least in the probe that eventually emerged. Now, is it all linked to coaching institutes? No. And that's why I'm saying this issue is so much more complex. It's about what students have to face day in and day out. Is it the education system at fault? Is it what's going wrong with our schools? Is it what's going right or wrong with our coaching centers? But for now, we are being joined right now by Priyansh Rawat. All right, before we go on to our guests, let's just try and listen to some reactions that have come in of students, of parents, to this announcement that has been made by the center for the guidelines that have been issued for coaching centers.
Welcome this notification. The reason for that is it is regulating coaching industry, and there are several problems in that. They make false promises such as 100% selection guaranteed and things like that. They enroll kids below 8 standards as well, right? So I mean, they're not supposed to enroll them. The overall development of the kid at that moment of time is very essential and important. But what happens is that these coaching institute ask their parents that no, the school is not giving you education proper. But what we'll do, we'll make your kid top in whatever IIT, top in NEET or whatsoever, and that's not needed at that point of time.
Majority of reason why people at such an age commit suicide in Kota and other coaching institute is because they have a lot of pressure, mainly due to the large amount of money that is being spent on them, and especially the move that if a student wants to come back to his home and just discontinue in between, their money will be refunded. That's a very good move.
The decision and the guidelines are welcome from the government or the ministry, but the point is how many days it will take to implement 100%, because there is lot of drawback and loopholes in the guidelines still, and they have to work more on that.
It seems that there is some clarity required in this. 16 साल से बच्चों के ऊपर के लिए जो कॉम्पिटिटिव एग्ज़ाम्स को इन्होंने एनरोलमेंट करने की बात की है, देयर आर सर्टेन स्टूडेंट्स जो 15 ईयर में ही 10th क्लियर कर लेते हैं, तो 15th के बाद वो ऑब्वियसली कॉम्पिटिटिव एग्ज़ाम्स के लिए एनरोल करेंगे, तो उन लोगों के फ्यूचर पर थोड़ा सा एक एम्बिग्युइटी सी बन गई है.
I'm right now being joined by Priyansh Rawat, who's a 9th class student, as well as Gitanjali Kumar, who's a counselor. Thank you very much, both of you, for joining us. Priyansh, let me just come to you first. What are your initial reactions?
Hi, good evening. Well, I believe that banning the coaching centers for under 16 students is not necessary. We are the new generation. We are the next doctors, the next engineers. We need time to prepare for the G, the NEET, etc. We need to enhance all our skills. Banning coaching centers for under 16 students is not wise, in my opinion. And the one of the major concerns is that the feedback from the students is that they are overpriced and that they have false promises. And another thing is that the government coaching centers are heavily priced. You have to give a big sum of amount of money to enter these coaching centers. I believe that instead of banning the coaching centers for under 16 kids, what they should do is improve the education system in schooling, that we'd have no need for coaching centers. I go to coaching centers and have tuition on my own. I don't think that there should be a ban. There should be encouragement for people to join coaching centers, have tuition. But to get rid of coaching centers, first, what the government needs to do is improve the education system itself. That's what I believe. Thank you.
Priyansh, Priyansh, what makes you want to go to coaching institutes? How many hours in a day do you spend in a coaching right now? And what makes you want to go to coachings? What's the reason that you have to go for coachings? Why are you so passionate about it?
I'm passionate about it because I want to be a good person for society. I want to be beneficial. I believe that it not only enhances your skills for the entrance exams like GE, NEET, and etc. It also amplifies your strength in maths, science. Many students don't just join it for cracking the exams. They join it also for enhancing their own skill.
Priyansh, do you feel not necessarily the school where you're studying, but overall where your friends are studying, where you are studying, do you feel the school is not able to meet your requirements and that's why you have to look alternate?
Well, schools have their own systems. Some schools are different. Some have a emphasis on education more, except extracurricular activities. Some have a higher level of extracurricular activities as well. But if the government cracks down on this and improves the quality of life in these schools, private, public, whatnot, it would not only be good for the students but for the Indian society as a whole. There will be more doctors and engineers and
Okay.
scientists that will
Priyansh,
aid
just
the society.
one last question, Priyansh. Priyansh, in a day, how many hours are you spending in a school? And after that, how many hours, after that or before that, how many hours are you spending in the coaching institute? And after that, how many hours do you study? Could you help us understand this?
Yeah, I have school from 8 in the morning till 2 in the afternoon. Then after that, I go to tuition.
All right.
In there, I study for an hour or an hour and a half or two. This is all I do for studying, and
Okay.
it helps me a lot.
All right. Okay, fair enough. Thank you very much, Priyansh, for giving us those insights, particularly about how you are spending your day. I'm also being joined by Gitanjali Kumar, who's a counselor. Gitanjali, what would be your initial reactions? Because while you have students like Priyansh who have responded that they need that additional support, it is very important for them. And frankly, 1 hour after school or 1.5 hours after school is very practical. He's saying that's all he does for studying, and I don't see anything particularly wrong with that. But you have the other equilibrium where you have students who are so stressed, so fearful about their marks. They are dying by suicide because of their mark results, because of the coaching pressures. I mean, it's not only death by suicide, the stress. Just yesterday, we had visuals of a student just collapse in the coaching class. Now, we don't know whether it was stress or anything. The reasons behind that is not known. But, the overall stress has increased so much. How do you respond to what's really come up from the center?
Definitely, there is a need to uh, ease the stress on students, and coaching centers, which we have all across the country, are sorry to say, are contributing to that stress. They may not want to do it, but the reality is that it is happening. Since I interact with number of students across the country, and I do hear their stress, I do get to know how and where the stress is coming from. Now, what this little child is trying to tell us is that going to a tuition center, taking us a tuition class, where there is a group of 7 or 8 children with for an hour or so is not what is in question at the moment. We are talking about the coaching center where the class size is perhaps more than 100 and where the children are packed into a cramped environment, a small room where the children are made to sit so uncomfortably on benches, and the classes continue for hours and hours and hours, and children don't even go to a proper school. There is no scope for some co-curricular activities or life skills being inculcated into our children, where somebody talks about how to understand and how to manage
Totally
stress.
agree with you on this, Miss Gitanjali. Totally agree with you. But what is very difficult to also understand is you and I, and so many of us have heard our children speak about such issues, about how, I mean, infamously called the factories. These big, large-scale coaching institutes are called factories that are just churning out numbers one year after the other. But the fact is, these students are paying the money and going. Nobody is forcing them. So it's not about the coaching institutes alone, which is very important, but how completely we are just failing our students. Now, for example, do we even give them the option that they have a future in life if they do not join the coaching institute?
Exactly.
Do they
This is
have
what
that
I'm.
option in life?
Yes, we do have the option. See, it is basically a herd mentality. The way you look at the advertisements, the way the advertisements come, it is like baiting the fish, where the children start feeling insecure that if I don't join X, Y, Z, I might miss the bus. So these institutes are perhaps trying to catch upon the fear of the child. They're trying to play with the emotions of the parent. How the parents are cajoled into sending their children. If they don't send, then their parenting is being questioned. See, the problem is intermingled, intertwined. There are so many angles to it. The schools want the children to come, but the children feel that no, missing the school and going there and studying for 5 hours, I'm preparing for my JEE. They are not equipped to take the board exam. They've not finished the course of class 11th and 12th, and they are preparing for the NEET or the board or the JEE exam. That is the tragedy. So the concepts are not clear. The children are
Gitanjali,
not
ma'am,
able to learn the ways to study. And believe me, the competitiveness that
Gitanjali,
the
ma'am,
other
you
child
and
sitting
I would
next to him.
agree on this. There are students who are studying in top-notch schools, and by the time they're reaching their 10th class, 9th class, or 10th class, they will get off those schools. They will
Yeah.
enroll in some school which will not have very strict rules. So their attendance is not an issue, and they will go and spend hours in coaching institutes. It's a choice that they and their parents are making only because they really don't see any other option. I mean, the tragedy of our system, really.
They don't see, or they are scared to see because nobody shows them, or they don't want to listen also. The option B and C, where are they being discussed? I will share a very hilarious thing. It's not hilarious also, but it's an eye opener for me because I visit a lot of professional colleges, engineering colleges, and other colleges. I come across children who tell me that since class 8th we have done nothing except studying. हमने कुछ नहीं किया है. And when we come into these colleges, we don't know how to make friends and how to join societies. And why should we join societies? Because we've just done nothing in life except studying and studying and
Okay.
studying. And now when they come into the colleges, they don't want to study.
Okay.
It's a burnout stage for them. For
Priyansh,
the ones who
Priyansh,
land
you're in
into
class 9th. You
colleges.
just go to coachings for an hour, hour and a half. Do you and your friends, did you all discuss about what happened yesterday, about how these new guidelines have come? Was it a topic of discussion? Do you all talk about, does stress affect you all?
In my personal experience, I don't have the stress of this level. My parents, I'm blessed to have good parents, and it's not just the coaching centers and tuition centers that give us the stress. It's not just them. The parental force and parental stress is also there. And if students, as you said,
Right.
ma'am, that students are not attending school and going to coaching centers, what would the reason for that would be? I believe that they don't think it's enough for them. They don't think that school is good enough to
Right.
help them pass. If schooling
Okay.
is that bad for them,
Right.
in their opinion, that they would go to coaching centers instead of the school, there may be a problem in the schools that they are attending. I'm not talking about every school ever. I'm just saying that
Absolutely.
the
Absolutely.
education system has to
No,
be
no,
better.
fair enough. You're making a very important point, Priyansh, and that really is the irony of it all. But Ms. Gitanjali, if I'm
Yes.
talking about numbers, 70% increase in death by suicides among
Yes.
students just in a decade in India. One of the reasons, major reasons that have come out according to the NCRB data as well as the probes that would have eventually followed is failure in examinations. How practical do you really think? And I'm not putting it all on coaching institutes. That's completely unfair. I'm now trying to take the discussion beyond that. Mental health, whether it be schools or coaching institutes. Like, for example, I'm seeing here one of the recommendations given is that mental health must be focused upon, children's well-being must be focused upon, offs must be given. Well, schools also do that, but frankly, have we reached that stage where we take all of this extremely seriously?
No, see, we are still struggling. There is a lot of stigma attached to it. Whether any place, anybody who comes to visit a mental health professional wants to keep it a secret. Why does one want to keep it a secret? From family and friends. Because people do not take it healthy, because I will be ridiculed, because I will be questioned, because I will be thought of that I'm incapable of, I am a failure, that I'm not able to handle my fears or my concerns, I'm not able to address. So this
Right.
kind of a thinking, this kind of a rationale which they tend to grow with each individual, so this kind of a rationale creates that fear of denial, creates that desire to keep this in denial, not to take their mental health needs very
All
seriously.
right.
That is why we have lot of systems in
Okay.
place, but only on paper. The anonymity, the
Okay. All
confidentiality
right.
which is
Thank you very
required, the
much, Ms.
respect which is
Gitanjali,
required,
as well
is not
as
being there.
Priyansh Rawat. Thank you very much, both of you, for joining us. We are totally out of time. We appreciate your responses and your perspectives to this. This is a very complex issue. At least one step has been taken. There's some form of guidelines which have been issued to coaching centers, but we really hope it doesn't stop there. It's
Yes.
enforced. We must remember there have been several instances of deaths by suicides being reported from what are being seen as hubs of coaching
Very much
centers, the
needed.
large-scale coaching centers, whether it be Kota or in Andhra Pradesh. This is not blacklisting anybody. There's a whole
Yes.
system that needs rectification, but at least there's been a starting point somewhere. Thank you very much for joining us.